Hello, and welcome back. Today, we are talking about lessons in life because if you are sitting out there and you are like, I just want to be a fun mom, I just want to enjoy spending time with my kids, this episode is for you. And the reason that I wanted to kick this month off with this is because I've really been looking back at my life and what I have created and who I am now and where I've gotten myself to. And the thing is, I think a lot of times we don't realize how much we're actually capable of. And I feel like I hear my old self listening to me being like, yeah, like easy for you to say because you are like where you're at right now, right? And when I really look back, I used to be the woman who would watch Oprah. I used to be the woman who would listen to a podcast and I'd be like, yeah, it's so easy for them to be here teaching about this because they are there and they have no idea what it's like for me, the struggle, the wanting help, wanting support. I am like barely surviving my days, trying to get all the laundry done, trying to get my kids to all their activities. And it's not that my husband was like, oh, that's her job. It is this belief that I had, and I feel like it's this belief that society puts on us that as a woman, we are supposed to do it all. We are meant to do it all. And the religion I was raised in kind of taught the same thing. And so I really took on this identity like we are praised for everything that we can do, right? We're praised for everything we get done. And I don't know how you do it and how you stay on top of your days. You're such a good mom. And we get all of this external validation, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm getting all this praise from other people, but my life pretty much feels like shit. And the reason for this is because this is what society has trained us. This is how we were conditioned. This is what we were taught growing up. This is what we saw our parents doing. But this is an old dynamic. This is an old way of being, an old way of living, an old way of thinking about motherhood. And what if we were to get praised for taking time for ourselves, for connecting with other women instead of on the struggle of motherhood? And I am not saying motherhood is easy because it is not. But when we really start to put systems in place, life gets so much lighter. And that is what I want to share with you today. Because I've realized when I got pregnant at 18, I was one of those 18-year-old teen pregnancy statistics, is what I always called myself, because I was just set up to fail in life. I got pregnant as a teenager. Teenagers who get pregnant don't make it very far in life. That is what I learned in school. And so I was like, that's it. This is it for me. I don't get to chase my dreams anymore. I've got to turn and I got to take care of my kids. I've got to take care of my husband. That is my job. That is my duty, is to take care of everybody else and put myself on the back burner. And I got really lost in that, really lost in that. And then there came a point where I just remember like walking through my house feeling so overwhelmed, just being so frustrated. And I was like, really? Really, is this all there is to life? Is this what the rest of my life is going to look like? Going through the motions, barely surviving my days, trying to stay on top of it all, snapping at my kids, and then just seeing the sad little looks on their faces. You know how when you snap at your kid and you don't mean to, and then they get this sad little look on their face, and you're like, oh my gosh, this isn't who I want to be. That is how I felt all the time. I I didn't know how to control my emotions. I didn't know how to respond. So I was just reacting to everything that was happening around me. I was overstimulated. So my kids would run through the house screaming and I would just like lose my mind. And this truly isn't how I wanted my life to be. This isn't how I wanted to raise my kids. This isn't what I wanted them to believe motherhood was. And growing up, I always had this goal of I wanted to do it differently than my mom. Her and I never had a good relationship, and I wanted to do it better. And I didn't know how. I was feeling lost. And I know I've talked about it on here before, but I remembered my Nana. Oh, I love my Nana. She gave me a journal one year for Christmas, and in it she tucked a magazine article that talked about journaling and the benefits that it can have on your mental health. And I remember pulling it out and I remember reading through this little article. It was like a few paragraphs long. It was just a short little piece. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start. I had journaled a lot as a kid, like all growing up. I'd be like, my favorite color is yellow. My cat did this today. Like I would always journal little things growing up. And I decided to bust that back out. And I started by writing all of my thoughts and feelings and my deepest thoughts and feelings and what was happening in my life and what I wasn't proud of and all of those things. And what I didn't realize that was going to do for me is it started to shift things. It really started to shift things. And as I continued on that, then I fell into the world of podcasting, of all things. And this was like way before podcasting was as big as it is now. And I remember listening to podcasts and audiobooks, and I just really started to shift. And my very first coach that I ever hired changed everything for me. Like when I finally, because I used to be the one, I was so scared to spend money on myself. I used to be the mom who I'd be like, "Do you know how many boxes of diapers I could buy for that amount of money? And do you know how many months of groceries that would pay for?" But what I didn't realize at the time, when I finally made that first investment in myself, that changed the trajectory of my entire life. That changed my life. That changed my kids' lives. That changed my husband's lives. And that was the part that I did not realize would happen is this is a lifelong change that you make when you invest in yourself, because not only are you investing money so you do the work, right? Like when we are broke and we invest our money into something, we are like, I am getting my money's worth out of this. I am going to do every single thing that you say and tell me all the steps. I'm here for it. And that is exactly what I did. I followed all the steps. I did what she told me. And as I sit back and I look at that whole journey of me showing up as the mom that I desire to be now, and we've just moved our family to a new state so that we could get in better networks of people and be able to grow our businesses and chase our dream in a way that we could not where we were. And so when I look at where I am now and where I was then, I never could have imagined this would be the direction that my life would go. I never imagined living outside the state I grew up in, if I'm being honest, leaving the religion I grew up in and making money on my own. And that is a piece of my business. I am not where I dream of being yet financially, but I grew my photography business. I was making $50,000 a year in my business. And to be able to do that, coming from where I came from, not believing it was possible, to now believing in what is possible, what would that do for you? What would it do for you if you were able to put systems into place that made your life feel so much lighter, that helped you stay on top of everything, so that you just got your peace of mind back and you were able to be present with your kids? You were able to be the fun mom that you desire to be because you're not bogged down by all the responsibilities on your to-do list. You knew that how you showed up every single day is enough. And you know that what you do every single day is enough. Like, what would that life feel like for you? This is why I became a coach. This is why I got certified in breathwork. This is why I am getting another certification in somatic coaching starting in January. And it's because I believe in this so much. What I did not realize that day when I hired that coach was that I, as a human being, was going to change, because I can tell you that version of me 17 years ago, sitting in my living room watching TV, being like, easy for you to say, you're making millions. That version of me could not have even fathomed where I am today. But it's one decision. All that girl back then did was made a choice that life got to be different. And you can make the same choice that life gets to be different. Whether I were to be the mentor for you or not, I highly, highly recommend that you find a coach, that you jump into a course, that you listen to a podcast. If you're here, you're listening to a podcast. And so if you've been listening to podcasts, have you been taking action? The key step is not consumption. This is where I got hung up for a really long time because I was really afraid. And so I was like, I'm learning. I'm just learning. And I got all hung up in consumption. Anything I could get my hands on, I was consuming, 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 but then I was never taking action. And so my challenge for you is whatever you're learning, take action. And if you want a first step, I will drop the link so that you can go snag a free breathwork audio. Start with breathwork, start with journaling. Those are my 2 challenges. And if you journal, well, let me give you a little template here to run with, whatever you want to say. Start by journaling 10 things you're grateful for every single day. 10 things you're grateful for. Do you want to know what makes it into my gratitude journal quite often? Is I'm grateful for good pens. Good pens. Like if you're watching, they're like these Optimus pens. I am a pen snob, and I am really grateful for felt tip pens that just write smoothly and beautifully. And so good pens. I think that we have this belief that it just has to be something big or we can't be grateful for it. And that's so not true. Like I am grateful for sunshine. Oh my goodness, my health, the outdoors. Like, what is it for you? What are some of these small things that you can be grateful for? And just write 5 or 10 of them down every single morning. And then something else that's a really good practice is journal from your future self. And so this morning, because I'm back on this practice because, hey, we just moved, I was in a funk. I was hating everything about this. And I was like, nope, come back to your why, come back to your why. And it's just living in the city. I've never lived in a city. So here we are. But I wrote a letter to myself from 1 year in the future me, telling me what my life looks like, how it feels, how much money I'm making, how my business is flowing, how many women I get to serve. And I just go on and on and on. It's a whole page usually. So I have, if you want to get really logical here, I have the top of my notebook page and I think I write 12 things because I do 4 columns of 3 at the very top. And then I write the date again. So this morning it was like 8/12/2025. And then I wrote the letter to myself from 1 year in the future me, all about how great life has been and how we're all thriving and how we've been out adventuring and doing all of this and getting into groups of people and really enjoying it and just all of this stuff, right? And so it's like, just sit down for 5 minutes. I think that took me less than 10 minutes. And I did breath work this morning. Find a practice that works for you. I just gave you 3 options: the breath work, journaling, gratitude journal. Those are kind of the same. I feel like I gave you 3, but I may have given you 2. What was the third? Breathwork or journaling? Pick one. Pick one. And I want you to start to lean into what could be possible for me. So if you're listening to this and your brain's kind of like, yeah, like easy for her to say she's where she is now. Well, let me tell you, I started at 0. I started out as a girl pregnant at 18 who thought my life was over, who for the first 5 years of my marriage, just going through the motions, just let's survive this day. And when my head would hit the pillow at night, I was always asking myself, was this enough? Am I showing up as enough? Because this doesn't feel like me. Is this all there is to life? Because I feel this fun, more bubbly, outgoing version of me inside. But I'm like in this shell of a human, barely surviving my days, just going through the motions. And I don't feel alive. I feel dead inside. If you are ready to awaken your soul, you need systems. You need systems in place that support that. But I think first, you get to get really clear on the vision that you want. So this is where the journaling comes in. What are you grateful for right now? It's a perfect place to start. Look around at your life. What are you grateful for? Then decide what you want. Decide what you want. And if the desire is in your heart, know this. You have everything within you to create it, and there's no shame in wanting that thing. I want a car that costs almost $200,000. I have a Range Rover that I hopped online and I designed and I picked everything out that I want. And the total came out to like $190,570. And I am working toward that. And it's okay. My next hire is probably going to be a housekeeper to come in and just help me stay on top of this house because it's bigger than I anticipated. And it feels like a lot. Yeah, my kids help. We have systems. But also, can we have somebody come in and help us do the deeper clean? What else? Something else I feel like I could get behind is probably having a chef come in, or at least a meal prep person come in and help prep meals once a week. I don't know. These are just things that I'm like, that would be really fun to have. And so don't judge. I share these because these are things that I used to judge. These are things that I used to be like, oh my gosh, your kids are going to be like spoiled little brats. I can't even believe you. Like, you're such an awful person for wanting these things. How snotty of you. That is just snobby. Like, all the things went through my mind. And so I just want you to know, don't judge anything that pops into your head. Don't judge anything that you desire. So get really clear on your desires, and then write your letter to yourself from the version of you who has those things. And if you want a really good place to connect to the version of you that already has those things, come and join the Breathwork Collective. The Breathwork Collective is where we do 2 breathwork workshops every single month. And this is the space where you learn how to tap into her. You learn how to connect with her, because when you start to tap into her and connect with her, then you will slowly start to embody and become her. Okay, so those are your steps. Those are your 3 items that you could do: breathwork, gratitude journal, writing a letter from when you're in the future you, aka future casting, if we want to get the technical term in there. But write the letters, get really clear on what you desire. This is how you start to change your life. I was the girl who was once there too, so there are no excuses. I have a pretty traumatic history. I had a pretty traumatic childhood. There are no excuses as to why you cannot change. There are no excuses as to why you are choosing to be stuck in the circumstances that you were in. You get to change it at any time. So look around at your life. If you created the life that you are in currently, there is no reason why you cannot create the life you desire, because you're probably living a dream you once had. You probably dreamed of being right where you are at one point in the past, right? And if you've gotten yourself there, how much further could you get yourself if you throw fear and doubt in the back seat and you take the driver's seat? So I just want you to really think about that and let me know how this has helped you. Drop a review if you're feeling called to. If you've listened to this episode or any others that have really spoken to you, please drop a review. It helps me so much. And I would love to hear how this has helped you. I would love to hear how things have shifted for you. And I will talk to you next time.